So we're in for a treat together, everyone. I remember this was one of the first Superman comics that my mom gave me when I was a kid, back when I was probably like 7 or 8, something like that. But I've never gotten around to reading it. Believe it or not. If I did, I don't remember. So it was a treat to go back and read this. And the significance of this is part 2 of the Krypton Man. So the Eradicator in this human form was first introduced in Man of Steel issue 1 and kind of built up the next parts, which I'm hoping to go back and find the rest of this. The print date on this was July of 1991. And I just love how it opens up and the Eradicator says, "Finally and inevitably I've returned. This world is still imperfect. No place for Krypton's last son. I have come back to remedy that situation. Well, the only thing you've done so far is take a life. No matter what he's done, that terrorist did not deserve to be disintegrated by you." And I just love how it's just this showdown between these two powerful beings. His life was a worthless, villainous one. Many of the humans below chanted for his death. An efficient society could not tolerate a presence such as his. If order is to ultimately prevail as the guiding factor for all life, creatures of his kind must be removed. We are then treated to a beautiful splash page of the Man of Steel versus the Eradicator. But before we can dive further into this, let's talk about who made this book. Story and dialogue, Dan Jurgens. Pencils, Dan Jurgen. Art, Thibert. John Bogdanovo, Bob McLeod, and Tom Grummett. Inks, Brett Breeding. Art, Thibert. Dennis Yankee, Dennis Roder, and Jerry Ordway. Letters, John Costanza. Colors, Glenn Whitmore. And then there's everyone else that was working on the book. Of course, it was Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster that created the Man of Steel, and an all-star cast because you can kind of see everyone's hand on this book. But this particular splash page is just astounding. It's dynamic, and I just love everything about it. And just the rain, how it just kind of adds that negative background so that our two subjects pop in the foreground, and Clark's like, those energy J-based powers, that costume the Eradicator once put me in the talk of Krypton's last son. You're the Eradicator come to life. I am. And it's just, I love the design here where he's just in that black, pure energy wearing just sort of these Kryptonian garbs. It is absolutely fantastic. And then what I like here is, okay, so it was one of the annuals. I think it was The Adventures of Superman, one of the annuals where he first appeared. And we kind of see how he was a entity that tried to take over Superman and suppress his humanity so that there would be a new Krypton on Earth. And actually how he made Jimmy Olsen look like the elongated man, all because he was part of Clark's original pod that sent him to Earth. So I just love how in these few panels we kind of get some backstory on the Eradicator and how he basically escaped the death that Superman tried to cause on this machine to save humanity. The only thing about this issue that I don't like is I hate how bumbling they made the Clarks sound. Or the Kents, the Clarks. Because I've always seen Pa Kent as more of this badass country folk. But here they're just like, oh, this gives me the jitters. Goodness, I hope I remember to pack some seasickness pills. And I'm like, why are you making the Kents sound like a bunch of nerds? Because they're not. I know we should have asked for help finding our room, but no, always have to do it yourself. Relax, Martha. Let's see. I think it's over there. And just, that's not Pa Kent. Pa Kent will pull a freaking shotgun on you in a heartbeat, and that's how I see him. But it is what it is for this issue. And then we get some cringy parts with Jimmy Olsen thinking that he's this new rock star. And, of course, 1991, got to get that Van Halen look about it and just whatever. So there's a bit of a sad story with Jimmy in this issue. And then everyone's saying it's unnaturally hot. So that's a big plot point. I like how the weather basically kind of becomes its own character in this story. And the same thing as we start to see earthquakes in Washington, D.C. So we start to see things adding up with the Eradicator. Now, one thing that is a little jarring is so we see kind of the more classic style of Clark Kent and Superman in the beginning. And then all of a sudden we get this big jawed Superman, which I'm not too super fond of. But that's, there's so many different artists on this book. You can kind of see the different styles. But when I first saw this reminded me of what is his name from the heavy metal magazines? Captain Stern. It just gives off that Captain Stern energy in this panel. So you get a quick moment of how this professor and Superman are wanting to do some investigations on some alien tech. But this is where we find that the Eradicator is responsible for trying to quickly change the Earth. We're starting to see rain, heat. He goes, unsatisfactory. Though I have implemented the metamorphosis procedure, its progress is too slow. Everywhere I look, the products of this sick, drab, chaotic city offends me. To accomplish this, I must reach back to my power source. This planet will change. Krypton will live again. Which leads into an absolutely amazing battle against the Man of Steel and the Eradicator. And we can see that he is a force to be reckoned with, as Clark just cannot seem to get a beat on this guy. And you come to find out that he's able to read Superman's mind. So he knows what he's going to do before he even acts. I don't want to give too much of this issue away. It is a great read. Action-packed. Yeah, there's a couple of cringy moments with the Kents, which I wish we're not going to go there. Other than that, beautiful. I love the cover, how you just get this sense of, oh, shoot, what in the world is happening to the Man of Steel here? It is very uncomfortable, and it just draws you in and makes you want to know more. So like I said, if you want to read the first part, go get the original Man of Steel issue 1, and then this is part 2, and I believe there's 2 other parts that I'm going to try to hunt down next time I get out and about. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please, first and foremost, support your local comic shop, wherever it is like to get your comics and action figures, and snag this issue. If you've enjoyed this review, I really would appreciate it if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you mind hitting that fancy little Eradicator bell next subscribe, that way as I continue to build content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.